Imagine waking up 50,000 years ago. There are no cities, there are no roads, there are no shops, markets, banks, factories, or companies. There is no money in your pocket because money does not exist. There are no jobs, no salaries, no customers, and no business owners. In fact, the very idea of business has not yet been invented. Your world is made up of forests, rivers, mountains, and open plains. Survival is the only goal. Every morning begins with one question. How will we find enough food today? Early humans lived in small groups, usually made up of families and close relatives. These groups rarely numbered more than a few dozen people. Everyone depended on one another because surviving alone was nearly impossible. There was no such thing as buying food. If you wanted to eat, you had to find it yourself. Some people hunted animals. Others gathered berries, nuts, roots, fruits, or edible plants. Every meal depended on what nature provided. Some days were successful, while others ended with empty stomachs. A failed hunt could mean hunger for everyone. Life was uncertain. There was no guarantee of tomorrow's food. Because survival required many different tasks, each member of the group helped in whatever way they could. Someone might gather firewood while another searched for clean water. Others made simple tools from stone or bone. Parents cared for children while stronger adults hunted dangerous animals. At this stage, people were not workers in the modern sense. They were survivors. No one received wages. No one sent invoices. No one kept financial records. These ideas would not appear for thousands of years. Since people lived in small groups where everyone knew one another, trust came naturally. If one hunter returned with a deer, the meat was usually shared among the entire group. There was no receipt, no payment, and no expectation of profit. Sharing was often the smartest way to survive. Today, if someone gives away valuable food without payment, we might think they are losing money. But for early humans, sharing was a form of insurance. A hunter who shared today's successful hunt knew that if tomorrow's hunt failed, someone else would likely share with him. This was one of humanity's earliest unwritten economic systems, reciprocity. People helped one another because they expected that kindness would eventually be returned. It was not charity alone, it was a practical strategy for survival. At this point in history, there was still no business because there was no need for it. Business exists when people regularly exchange goods or services to create value for one another. Early human groups rarely needed such exchanges because they produced almost everything they used themselves. A family hunted its own food, made its own tools, built its own shelter, collected its own water, produced almost everything it needed to survive. Economists call this self-sufficiency, ***. When one group can meet nearly all of its own needs, there is very little reason to trade with strangers. But this way of life had a hidden weakness. Imagine spending an entire day making a stone spear. That is a full day during which you cannot hunt. If the spear breaks tomorrow, you must spend another day making a new one. Now imagine someone in your group who is unusually skilled at making stone tools. While it takes most people an entire day to make one spear, this person can make 3 in the same amount of time. His experience allows him to work faster and produce better tools. Without realizing it, humanity had discovered an important idea. People are not equally skilled at every task. Some are better hunters. Some are better tool makers. Some are better at finding edible plants. Some are better at building shelters. Nature had created differences in ability. At first, these differences did not change society very much, because everyone still had to do almost everything for themselves. But the seed of a revolutionary idea had been planted. What if each person focused mainly on what they did best? No one knew it yet, but this simple question would eventually transform the world. It would lead to specialization. Specialization would lead to trade. Trade would create merchants. Merchants would need money. Money would require accounting. Accounting would help businesses grow. Businesses would create banks. corporations, stock markets, insurance, and the modern global economy. Every supermarket, factory, online store, and multinational company can trace its origins back to this one simple observation. Human beings are more productive when they do what they do best. But the world was not ready for that change yet. For thousands of years, humans remained hunters and gatherers, moving from place to place in search of food. They owned very little because carrying possessions over long distances was difficult. Wealth, as we understand it today, did not exist. A person's value came from their skills, knowledge, courage, and ability to help the group survive, not from owning land, money, or businesses. Business had not been born. Yet the conditions for its birth were slowly taking shape. People were learning. They were becoming more skilled. They were discovering that different individuals excelled at different tasks. Soon, another great change would occur, one that would allow humans to settle in one place, produce more food than they immediately needed, and create the first true surplus. That surplus would become the foundation upon which all business was built. End of chapter 1.